Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Parama Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Sarva Gurubhyo Namaha. So today we're going to talk about Puranic samskaras or samskaras or pujas that are done without Vedic mantras, with just classical Sanskrit mantras. So there's a couple of reasons why we would do such samskaras. Normally pujas and samskaras are done with a mixture of mantras from the Vedas and also from classical Sanskrit sources. So in Smarta Varnashram society, there are some smriti rules that are followed by people mostly who believe in caste by birth, who say that that Vedic mantras should not be chanted by members of the fourth class, the Sudras, and also sometimes by women. So there might be a situation where somebody is in that situation. Also, there are who follows those sort of rules, and they still want to perform some type of puja or samskaras to purify their life, to worship God. On the other hand, there might also be a situation where you have people who feel that they're not qualified to use the Vedic mantras, because even though they belong to the other classes, the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, or even though they're male, right? They still have not had the training in the Vedic mantras. And there might even be a priest like that who hasn't been trained in the Vedic mantras, doesn't perform Sandhyavandanam, Vedic Sandhyavandanam 3 times a day, which is the raison d'etre of the Brahmin. The Brahmin, the Kshatriya, the Vaishya, the Trivarnikas, those who are in the 3 upper classes, are supposed to study the Vedas, and they're supposed to practice the Vedas. They're supposed to keep the Vedas intact by practicing them, at least by doing the daily Sandhyavandana 3 times. So for all these different reasons, and there might be some people who come to a priest, a community priest, who say, I specifically want this type of puja without any Vedic mantras. Or there might be a priest who wants to make it easier and just chant classical Sanskrit mantras. Because obviously there are inherent risks with chanting Vedic mantras, because we have also the intonations, the swaras. In the 3 Vedas, Rig Veda, Yajurveda, and Atharva Veda, we have 3 swaras. Uche Ridata, Niche Ramdata, Samaha Swaritaha. We have these Udata, Anudata, and Swarita, 3 tones. So if we don't get the tones exactly right, that also affects the efficacy of the mantras, of Vedic mantras. But whereas classical prayers, classical Sanskrit hymns are all monotone, they're all done in one tone. So there's no bother about that. Still, we have to get the pronunciation of mantras and prayers in Sanskrit correct according to the letters and sounds of the Sanskrit alphabet, but we don't have to worry about the swaras, the different Vedic intonations, which we would have to worry about if we chanted Vedic mantras. So for all these reasons. Now, there is a book which I'm going to make available if anybody wants it. There's a book which is actually a thesis written by a scholar, and the thesis is on this book. It's called the Sudrachara. Sudra means the 4th class, person in the 4th class. Sudrachara. And we can remember that, Sudra is not necessarily, isn't a derogatory term. We're all workers, we're all working in society. So in a sense, we're all like Sudras. And here in the Kali Yuga, specifically in the Yuga that we're in, the Iron Age, or the last of the ages, which is like the winter of the spiritual ages. There's a statement in the Shastras, Kalo Sudra Sambhavan, that everybody practically speaking is born of this level of the 4th class type of personality. Of course, there are discussions that we can have about the original Varnashram system, Vedic Varnashram system, or Vaishnava Varnashram system, which is according to qualities, according to guna and karma, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita. Chaturvarna Maya Shishnam, Guna Karma Vibhagasaha. Krishna created these, and in the Rig Veda we see that in the Purusha Shukta mantra, Brahmanosya Makamase Bahu Rajanyakutha Uru Sarasiyad Vaishaha Padbyam Sudro Jayata, that there are these four types of people in all societies of the world, right? There are the intellectuals, there are the administrators, there are the entrepreneurs, and there are the working class. So these classes exist all over the world, but they're not as strictly defined as in the medieval period in India, when the Shmiti writers like Manu, Yajnavalkya, Parasara, these different people have defined them in a very strict way, and some of them have been defined according to birth. Whereas if we look in the Vedas and the Upanishads, we see that's not exactly the original method of defining these classes. So for instance, if we read the Vrajasuchika Upanishad, which is a deconstruction of caste by birth, it shows that, according to the Upanishads at least, the idea was the quality and the work of a person rather than his birth. Okay, so anyway, be that as it may, this book here is Sudrachara Shiromani of Krishna Shesha. So there was a person called Krishna Shesha, and he wrote this book. And the meaning of the book is Shiromani means the crest jewel. Crest jewel. Shiro means head and mani means jewel. So crest jewel is a jewel that's worn, the topmost jewel which is worn of a crown or a headdress or a tiara on the head of a person, right? The crest jewel. So a great, great, wonderful thing. And the subject matter of this crest jewel book is Sudrachara. Achara means Achara Patamo Dhamma. We say in Vishnu Sahasranama, in the Palashruti, it says Achara Patamo Dharma. It says that the first dharma, the first principle of religion, is achara. Achara means good behavior. It means our how we live our lives. Achara. So Sudra Achara means how the workers, how the people of the fourth class should live their lives. How they should live their lives according to what standards. Because if we look in the Shmiti Shastras, specifically like the Manusmriti, if we look in there, most of the rules in the Manusmriti are about the other three classes, the Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, or the intellectuals, administrators, and the entrepreneurs, the business people. Those people have certain rules that they have to follow in the Shmiti Shastras, right? Whereas in the beginning of Manusmriti, it says basically that the Shudras don't have any rules. They just work for the other classes. They're workers, so they work for the intellectuals, they work for the administrators, they work for the entrepreneurs. They're workers. And so they don't have so many strict rules, and therefore they're not bound by those rules. Now, because they're not bound by those strict rules, they're also not considered to be as pure as their lives are not considered as pure as those of the Trivarnikas, the other three classes. So we know that it's the duty of everybody to try to purify their lives and to serve the Supreme Lord, by worship of the Supreme Lord. And in order to worship the Lord, we have to try to live a pure life. So how does a person who is in a class which is not considered pure try to purify himself and to live a pure life and to serve the Lord? So this is what this book is about. It's Sudrachara Shiromani by Krishna Shesha. So anybody who sends me an email, if you're seeing this, you can send an email to the email address at the end of the video, and I'll send you a copy of this this dissertation, right? And it's very good. It includes the text with translation, and it includes some background information. It's a very nice dissertation like that. But that's not exactly what I want to go into today. What I want to go into today is another document which was written by a friend of mine in Australia, Rama Ramanujachari, and he has thought very deeply about this subject, and therefore he has compiled different pujas and different samskaras that can be done without the use of Vedic mantras, and he's compiled it into another PDF, and this is also available if anybody wants to get in touch with me. I can freely give them a place to download this. There it is. So, and what is it called? Puranokta Purva Prayogam. Right. So we know that the word Purva Prayogam, right? Prayogam means a procedure. When we say Purva Prayogam, there are two types of prayogams or two types of procedures usually in in ritualism, in domestic ritualism we're talking about, not in temple ritualism, not in there are different types of activities and different types of rituals that we perform, and they're basically broken down into three. They are Nitya, Naimitika, and Kamya. So these Purva Prayogas are the rituals and the procedures that help to purify people from birth to death, or even from conception up to death. There's another set of rituals after death that the descendants, the son or daughter, or what we call the karta, the person who is going to honor the ancestors or the pitris after that person's death, can perform for the forefathers. So those are from the funeral ceremony going onwards, the different rituals after death for the first 10 or 12 or 13 days after death, and then monthly and yearly after that for the rest of the descendant's life, right? That person will honor the forefathers, right? Or even during 2 weeks called Mahalaya Paksha, which we're entering into right now, in October, November, where we specifically worship the forefathers. So that's not dealt with in this specific document here. That is called apara prayoga. Apara means after the rituals or the procedures afterwards. So we have the rituals that come before, meaning before death of a person, from his conception up to his death, and then the rituals after death, including the funeral and what we call the shraddha or tarpanas or pindas that are offered to that person when that person is elevated to the status of a pitri or a forefather or an ancestor, forefather, foremother, the ancestors. So we're not dealing with ancestor worship here in this document. We're dealing with the normal rituals that we have. Now, in normal situations, the Shmiti Shastras talk about following the branch of the Veda that a particular family belongs to. So if you're performing ceremonies for a community of people, or you're performing these type of ceremonies, what we call samskaras. Samskaras are purificatory ceremonies throughout life, different stages of life. If you're performing them for your own self or your own family, then the first thing that you have to know is that there are many different ways of performing the same function. For example, the wedding, the wedding between a man and a woman. There are many different ways to perform this vivaha, what we call vivaha samskar. So according to the Veda, which the particular Trivarnika follows, the person of the higher three classes follows, they will perform that ritual. Right. Now, it also says in the Shmiti Shastras, however, one cannot have the qualification to perform that ritual if one is not properly following the rules and regulations of that class of personality. So even if a person is born a Brahmin or thinks he's a Brahmin, if he's not acting like a Brahmin, if he's not performing the activities of a Brahmin, which is minimally doing the Sandhya Vandana and chanting the Gayatri mantra and doing the Surya Agya 3 times a day, then he's not considered qualified. There are verses in the Shastras, in the scriptures, that say that the person doesn't come up to the qualification of studying the Vedas or teaching the Vedas or using the Vedic mantras. So this is one of the reasons why somebody might want to consider himself, if he's not performing those rituals, he might consider performing the same rituals and getting a similar benefit of purifying a different stage of his life by using classical or what's called here Puranokta. Ukta means to speak, and Purana is a class of literature. We know that there are 18 Mahapuranas, but basically it's not just Puranas. Either these mantras, either these slokas that are given here, these prayers which are given here for these ceremonies or rituals, are either from the Puranas or they're taken from some other classical Sanskrit literature, but not from the Vedas. So they might also be from the Agamas, right? They may also be from the Tantras. They may also be from other what we call Agama as opposed to Nigama. When we say Nigama means the Vedas or the Shruti. They're from the Shmiti, which are the Puranas, the Itihasas, like Mahabharata, Ramayana, some of these other scriptures. We can take verses from those scriptures and we can use them for a similar purpose as we would use the Vedic mantras in the ceremonies. So here he's used that word, Puranokta, Purva, Prayogam, non-Vedic forms of Hindu samskaras. Okay, so and he has a nice picture of Ganesh here on the front. So compiled by Sri Ramacharya. Rama Ramanujacharya is his full name, from Tantric and Puranic sources. So we'll just go through this book and have a look at it. First of all, it's going to, as again I said, that there are different types of rituals that we perform, and they can basically be divided up into nitya, naimittika, and kamya. So the nitya kriyas, or the nitya rituals, the rituals that happen every day, right? When we say nitya, the word nitya means eternal, but it can also mean every day, daily. So when we say nitya kriyas or nitya kamyas, nitya karmas, then we're talking about what we do every day. So the things that can be done every day can also be done in a Puranic way instead of using Vedic mantras. For instance, if a Brahmin takes a bath, a ritualistic bath, he'll use Vedic mantras to do that. Or he may use a mixture of Vedic and non-Vedic mantras. Here, all the mantras to be used are supposed to be non-Vedic. They're supposed to be either from the Puranas, Tantras, or Agamas. So that first part is called Anikam. Anikam means daily practices, right? So it's divided up into Pratasmaranam, what we think of and what we reflect on, what we meditate on when we wake up in the morning. Then Snanam, taking bath, Sandhyavandana Vidhi, which is also, can be done in a obviously all these things can be done using Vedic mantras as well, but we're dealing here with a way of doing them without Vedic mantras. Vaishvadeva Bali, is offering of foodstuffs to different devatas, different living beings. It's part of the Panchamahayajna that every grihastha should perform. So the 5 great sacrifices each day that a grihastha has to do before he takes his own meals, he has to also offer some part of his food he has to offer before he takes it to other living beings. First of all, to God, we offer the food to God and make it Bhagavat Prasadam, Krishna's Prasadam, or the Prasadam of Sriman Narayana, the mercy or the leftover food offering of Sriman Narayana. And then with that offering, we offer it to some of his associates, like the different devatas, the different, what some people call demigods, other living beings, and even animals and whatever. So this is because, the reason for doing this is because when we are born into this world, we are born in debt. So there's a Sanskrit word called rinna. Rinna means debt. So everybody is born into this world in debt. First of all, we're indebted to our parents, right? Our physical parents are the ones who have provided the material body for our soul to inhabit. We are indebted to our society for so many things throughout our life, for our education, for our upbringing, for our place in that society. We're indebted to so many personalities. We're indebted to our teachers for the knowledge that they teach us. We're indebted to the rishis if they give us this information, gurus, our teachers, who give us this spiritual information either from the Vedas or from the Puranas and Tantras and Agamas and Itihasas. So we are born into debt, and therefore we should try to repay that debt. And there are some rituals which we should do daily. If we're in the householder stage of life, we should do that. Yeah, in other stages of life, there may be certain rituals also. A person who's a student, right, he has to do some certain rituals. People who are retired also have to do certain rituals. And then finally, people who are renounced towards the end of their lifetime, they also have certain rituals they have to perform. But we are dealing with the bulk of society that is married and has a family situation, which is called householders. In Sanskrit, that's called grihastas. We have those different, what we call stages of life, called ashramas. Ashramas means where we take shelter of different activities, right? So in school, we take shelter of the teachers, and this is called the Gurukula, and that's where the students are. And then later on, we take shelter of a particular home as householders. And then later on, retirement and renounced life. So the whole idea is to gear towards the 4 goals of life in Hinduism, and these goals of life are called in Sanskrit Purusharthas. Purushartha means Purusha means person, and Artha means what the person wants to gain, or the goals of human life. So those goals are 4 basically. They are karma. They are dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So dharma means religiosity, living a proper life, right? Artha means we have to make certain, we have to make some economic development. We have to gain. We have to find a place to live, find a place to sleep. We have to get food to eat. We have to have a place to sleep. We have to get all of the necessities of life, material necessities taken care of. That's artha. Dharma, artha, kama. Kama means we a certain amount of enjoyment in life, pleasure and desires. We have certain desires to fulfill in our life, material desires. And then finally, moksha or liberation. We want to try and make this the last life and not go round and round in the cycle of birth and death, which is called samsara, and stay in this material world. But we want to get free from that. Free from that because ultimately this world is full of misery, and taking birth again is not the ideal of Hinduism or Vaishnavism. The ideal is to attain moksha, which Vaishnavas consider to be the eternal loving service of the Supreme Lord in heaven, in his heaven, Vishnoya Paramam Padam, in the Paramapadam, in the highest place, which is the abode of the Supreme Lord. So, okay, so now the whole ashram system is geared towards the renunciation and towards achieving that goal of moksha or liberation, right? In the beginning, we study as students, first of all from our mother and father, and then from our teachers in the school. Then we attain a position in society. We get married. We produce. So first of all, we're by ourselves in the brahmachari ashram in the student phase. In the next phase, we're with our wife, and then children and come about, and the family increases. In the third stage, the family grows up, and the family moves away. May move away, may not move away, but the family becomes somewhat separate. So again, we're trying to just be with our wife again and cut down on our association and our attachment to material things and this material world. And then finally, in the renounced state, we all go our separate ways, and the husband and the wife are also separate like that before attaining moksha, before leaving the body. This is the ideal system of ashrama, right? So now I don't want to get into a whole discussion of varna and ashrama and how it works, how it's supposed to work. So let's just assume here that we're going to be talking mostly about most people who are in the householder ashram, the householder section of their lifetime, and how they deal with purifying their lives according to with classical Sanskrit rituals. Okay, so we have the Vaishvadeva Bali. Then we have Bhojanam, how to properly take the meals, right? Alternative grace before meals, simple daily puja, universal prayers. So he's divided up into that. The second part of the book is about the samskaras. So bhaga just means a part. The samskara bhaga. The samskaras, according to the Trivarnika system, of the 3 higher classes, the 3 higher classes who are using the Vedic mantras and some classical mantras mixed, right? They have up to 40 different samskaras that they do within their lives. Now, normally from 1 to 26 is understood normally, and the last 14 are shrauta or Vedic sacrifices, which hardly anybody does anymore, right? So we can basically forget about the last 14. Now, of those 26, actually, most strict people only really perform about 16. Then out of those 16, it's come down to today, the people who hardly do any samskaras at all. Perhaps they do only 2 or 3 different samskaras. Maybe the Garbhadhana samskara, the conception samskara, the marriage samskara, some samskara for the birth of a child, and the Upanayam samskara, or the sacred thread samskara, or and the wedding, the wedding samskara, which I think I just mentioned. So these are basically 2 or 3 different samskaras that today Hindus and Vaishnavas specifically hone in on as being the most important acts that are there to purify the life. Now, these are all things which are considered to be compulsory samskaras, compulsory purificatory ceremonies. Now, once again, there are optional ceremonies that somebody can do. So these are all in the. So we're talking about nitya karmas that are done every day. These are occasional things which are ceremonies which are done throughout the life of a person and his family. And then finally, the final section is called the kamya rituals, which are done in case one has a special desire. If he's having trouble, he and his wife are having trouble having children, there's a putra kameshti yaga. There's a prayers to achieve to get a family, prayers to have a son, prayers to have a daughter. There are other things, prayers to gain wealth, prayers to get rid of a bad situation if one's having bad business, or one has committed a sin as prayaschitta or atonement for committing certain sins. There are all these kind of rituals also. That's not covered here in this section. Only the occasional ones which are considered compulsory. So the optional kamya rituals are not covered in this section. So let's see what these are first of all, and then we'll see what else there is. So Purvangam is general preliminaries that happen at the beginning of any ritual, right? Punyavachanam 1, Punyavachanam 2. So he's got a couple of different ceremonies for Punyavachanam. What does Punyavachanam mean? Vachana means to speak or to declare. Punyaha, Punya means auspicious, and aha means day. To declare that there's an auspicious day. And basically what we do, it involves the worship of water in a pot to make the water holy enough to sprinkle on the personalities and the ingredients of a ritual at the beginning to purify everything so that we can start and we can use those things and those people in the ritual. So that is Punyavachanam. So he's given 2 methods here of Punyavachanam. Anybody who's familiar with Hindu or Vaishnava ritualism, they'll probably be familiar with the Vedic forms of these ceremonies. But here we're talking again of purely Puranic or Agamic Tantric methods. Swasti Vachanam is again Vachana. Vachana means to speak, and Swasti means auspicious prayers to start a particular ceremony. So then now we have coming up Lagu Nandi Mukha Shraddha. So Shraddha is an appeal to ancestors, either spiritual ancestors in the Guru Parampara, Guru, Param Guru, Parameshti Guru, Parapara Guru, going all the way to the Lord in our particular lineage, or it can also be, Shraddha can also be an appeal to, Nandi Mukha Shraddha can be an appeal to our actual physical forefathers, our father, our mother, our grandfather, our grandmother, our great-grandfather, our great-grandmother on different sides of the family. Our relatives who have passed away and have become ancestors or pitris. So the Nandi Mukha is a ceremony to get permission from them. We should take permission from the forefathers in our family or in our lineage, in our particular sect that we belong to, because different Vaishnavas belong to different sects and different Hindus belong to also different sects. So these are not specifically Vaishnava rituals, but they are rituals for all types of Hindus, all types of different Hindu sects. So the Nandi Mukha is for getting permission from the ancestors, from the seniors, to perform a ritual. In fact, in the beginning of a ritual, there's something called Sabha Anugya. Anugya means a promise or an instruction. Sabha means the assembly of Vaishnavas or Brahmins that come or devotees that come to associate, to see you, to help, to give, to lend community support to you when you're doing a family ritual or any ritual. And there's a prayer that we normally say. There's a Vedic prayer, Namasarase, Namasarasataye, Namasakinam, Prayoganam, Chakshuse, etc. Namo Dive, Namaprativye, right? And then this is chanted to take permission from all those persons who are present. So not only do we have to take the permission from all those persons who are present, but we have to take permission from those persons who are not present, also the Pitris, right? And we may have to take permission from other living entities also, like that. There's even there are prayers that we can chant even before passing stool or urine, right? There are prayers to say, please, all the Bhutas and Pretas, all the different people, please stay away because I'm performing my ablutions now. I got up and I'm performing Putaveta Sapadya Yaksha Rakshasituhyaka Pavitranam Tuvam Desham Malamutre Tijamiham. I am about to abandon Malamutra or stool and urine, like that. So there are prayers for everything. There are prayers to the trees and the pre-prayers like that when we brush our teeth. So there are so many prayers that can be chanted. Okay, so this Nandi Mukha Shraddha is taking permission from personalities who are present, also personalities. In the case of Shraddha, it's personalities who have passed away, who are related to us either spiritually or materially. Okay, so then after that, we have the Kushandika. Kushandika is another way of saying Agni Mukham. Agni Mukham means setting up the face of Agni, the fire pit or the fire sacrifice. In some cases, we do ceremonies, rituals in Hinduism and Vaishnavism, which include a fire, a sacred fire into which we offer ghee and grains and wood, and maybe some other spices as well. And could be flowers, could be other things, precious things that we offer into the fire with mantras. So in order to set up that sacred fire, because it's not just any fire that we light, but we should light a proper fire, a proper sacred fire, and offer those items into that fire. And the fire is considered, the flames are like a tongue, and the fire is like a mouth of God, which we can offer these things into. So this Kusandika is the setting up or the arrangement of the fireplace for this sacred fire. Now, there are also pujas which don't require the performance of a fire ritual. So those also will be explained. So here it also says, Sangshipta Bhusamskara, the abbreviated preparation of the kunda. The kunda is the fireplace. When we talk about the place for putting the fire, it's either called a kunda, which means a sort of sometimes people call a lake a kunda. It's a hole in the ground. A kunda sometimes has water in it. In this case, it has fire in it. So it's a kunda. It's a shape of in the ground or in a vessel where we keep the fire kunda, right? It can also be called a standila. Standila means a type of fire altar, which could be just made with bricks and sand and or cow dung covering like that. It could be made in that way, like that. So there'll be some instructions there. So we'll go over that. Then we come to the actual. These are all preliminary things that have to be done. So what are we talking about? Preliminaries? Purvangam, which means the angas, the limbs, or the sections of the ceremony that have to be done first for every samskara, whether it uses fire or not, right? That come before the Purvangam. Then Punyavachanam, Swastivachanam, declaring an auspicious day, making holy water, chanting or prayers for auspiciousness, and taking permission from the forefathers and from others, say in the Guru Parampara, and then setting up the fire altar, the Yajna Kunda, or the fire altar, if we have to, or the Standila, if we have to actually perform oblations into the fire. So then we come to the actual different forms of samskaras. So there's Garbhadana. Garbhadana is a samskara for purifying conception. Pungsavana is for a certain purification of the embryo within the mother's womb at a certain time during the pregnancy. Simantam or Simantanayana is the same, like that at a different stage of pregnancy. Vishnu Bali, right, is a similar thing. Jatakarma is the birth, the ceremony that happens at birth. Sometimes that Jatakarma ceremony is postponed because birth is a very difficult situation, and so we have to wait perhaps after the birth sometime before we can perform that ceremony. So sometimes it's that ceremony is performed together with the Namakarna, which is the naming ceremony where a person gives a name to his offspring. Right. Similarly, the Garbhadana Pungsavana, the Pungsavana, Simantanayana, and Vishnu Bali could also be lumped together in the pregnancy. Then we have the Upaniskrama, where the baby goes out for the first time out of the Suchika Griha, the place where he's been kept in isolation for the period of asaucha or ritual contamination of 10 days after birth. The anaprasana, later on, when the baby attains around 6 months or so, then he begins to want to eat solid food and not just mother's milk. And so he's given the anna. The anna means rice. So rice or food, anaprasana, giving the baby the solid food. Chaula is the shaving of the head or cutting of the hair, like that. And upanayana is the bringing of the child close to the teacher for instruction in Vedic mantras or in other mantras, like that. So it's an initiation ceremony, which can be done either in Upanayana usually refers to the sacred thread ceremony for the higher 3 classes, but it can also be bringing the child closer to the teacher, like that. There is also a small samskara which can be done when the child first goes to school, when he meets the teacher and he's handed over by the parents to the teacher in the school for learning the ABCs and learning the different alphabets, like that. So then we have Abdi Purti, Ayushya Homam, which are done at certain times. You know, Abdi Purti is done at 60 years old for the couple, and it was sort of like another type of marriage. Ayushya Homam, Ayushya means for life, for long life. So in case we want, for our birthday, we might do Ayushya Homam, right? Shashti Mahotsava Vidi, so a birthday anniversary. Shashti means 60-year-old birthday ceremony. Usually the human life is considered to be a maximum 120 years, so which is the 2 cycles of Jupiter. So Jupiter or the planet Guru in Sanskrit goes around the solar system in 60 years. So there are different years in human life. We have our different years of our life, and each year has a name according to where it is in the Jovian cycle, in the cycle of Jupiter, like that. So we have, at 60 years, there's a celebration, like that. Navagraha Homa is for pacifying the 9 planets, like that. Ugra Rata Shanti is also in old age. There are some Shanti pujas. Shanti means to make it all peaceful in old age. We have Vastu Shanti. Vastu Shanti is in case we renovate a house or make a new house or create or make a well or erect something on the earth, then we have to satisfy certain. There are 45 devatas, as well as the Vastu Purusha, who's also another devata that has to be pacified whenever we build something, or whenever we enter into a new house or apartment. Vahana Puja Vidanam, we'll see Vahana usually means a palanquin or a carrier, like that. Vahana in this sense here is going to talk about the different vehicles that we have. In case we buy a new car or something like that, or have a new vehicle, we have to do some. We always try to remember the Supreme Lord whenever we do anything, whenever there's any big ceremony, there's any big turning point in our life. So getting a house, getting a car, like these are milestones in the life. So we always worship the Supreme Lord at that time. Dakshina Danam would come at the end of each one of these ceremonies. That is, if in case we don't do this ourselves, we have to employ a priest or a few priests to help us to do these ceremonies as householders. Then we have to offer the Brahmins. Even if we do it ourselves, we should be offering the Brahmins and the Vaishnavas. We should be offering them some dakshina. That means some honorarium, some money and some gifts, right, to satisfy them, right? And then Ashivadam is what the priest will offer Ashivadam to the family and specifically to the Yajamana. The Yajamana is the sponsor of the worship, of the puja, and the Ashivadam is blessings that are offered by the people of the congregation who are there, the people who congregate there, the Sabha. and specifically by the priests involved and any elders. They'll always give Ashirvadam, they'll give a blessing on the personality who has performed these, who has had these rituals performed. So let's have a look at the forward here. Okay, so all the Vedika Prayoga manuals for the sacraments of every Hindu should perform, for the sacraments that every Hindu should perform and undergo are traditionally intended for those, for the use of those who have been initiated, Upanayanam, right, and have studied Sanskrit and the Veda, or at least those suktas means hymns of the Veda, and mantras can be either classical or Vedic, that are used in these sacraments and rituals, right? So the Vedika, the Vedic or the Prayogas, the ritual texts that deal with mantras coming from the Shruti, from the original Vedas, right? They're intended for people who have already studied them. They have studied and they're ritually pure, and they have studied these mantras and they know how to pronounce them correctly. Remember, because I said there was different swaras in them. So nowadays, only a tiny percentage of the Hindu community actually undergoes the initiation of the sacrament of initiation, or Upanayanam. And even fewer have any knowledge of the Vedas or of Sanskrit. Right. They have great difficulty in pronouncing the mantras, which are hedged in strict rules because of the three different intonations, the swaras in Vedic Sanskrit. Any imperfect pronunciation of the mantra, swara, is said to result in negative consequences both for the reciter and for the purohit. So a purohit is a priest that will come, and the priest will come to help the person do the ceremony. And that usually what the priest will do is the priest will say a mantra, and he'll have the yajamana, the person who is the sponsor of the ceremony, repeat after him. So if the priest makes a mistake, that's bad. But 9 times out of 10, the person isn't trained in the mantras. So when hearing the mantras from the priest, even though the priest may say them correctly, the person able to say them correctly. If the person isn't able to say them correctly, again, it'll be what we call a hinam, or a mistake in the ceremony. And the mistake in the ceremony, the imperfect pronunciation of it. That's why there are even prayers that we chant to beg the Supreme Lord Sriman Narayana to forgive us. Chamashwa, chamashwa. Chamashwa means forgive us for any mistakes that we make. Yadakshara pada brahma, matrahinam tu yad bhavet, tat sarvam cham yatam deva, narayana namostute. Visargabindu matrani, padapadaksharani cha, yunani chaturiktani, chamashwa purushottama, we say. Right? These are 2 prayers which everybody should know. Everybody should learn these. Probably the first prayers that you should learn is to beg forgiveness for making mistakes in chanting the prayers. And these are not just mistakes in the swara, in Vedic mantras, but these are mistakes also in classical mantras. So we should all know these. These are the number 1 prayers that we should learn, right? These 2 prayers. So the Sanskrit mantras are very seldom translated or explained to the participants. But sometimes a good priest, he'll explain the ceremonies as they go along to the participants. But of course, this makes the ceremony much longer, because if he has to explain, especially if he has to explain to a large group who are attending the ceremony in their own language. So many priests, they don't bother with that. They just perform the ceremony and they just go through it. And so it's up to the yajamana, the person who is sponsoring the ceremony, to decide how long he wants to spend doing the ceremony. Because first of all, he's hiring a priest to come and do the ceremony with him, to show him, to take him step by step through. So every mantra that the priest says, the yajamana is going to have to repeat after him, and therefore that's going to double. If the priest was just doing it for himself, it would be in half the time. So adding the repeating of the mantras by the sponsor, by the yajamana, that doubles the time of the ceremony. And then if the priest is going to explain to the person the actual meaning of the mantras and the meaning of the ceremonies as they go along, that makes even more time. So we find today that people have very little time for the explanation. They have very little time even for chanting, even for trying to repeat after a priest. So sometimes we find that the priest is doing most of the work, and the yajamana is just taking advantage of the priest and saying, "You do everything, and I will, wherever I have to put some ghee in the fire or offer some incense or whatever it is, I'll do that, offer a lamb, and at the end, I will present you with dakshina or honorarium as much as to satisfy you, because I understand that without you, I couldn't do this," like that, right? So the Sanskrit mantras are very seldom translated or explained to the participants. They're also very difficult to understand correctly because they also have some inner meanings. So with these disabilities in mind, this manual has been compiled from various Puranic and Tantric texts, as well as a text from the Middle Ages, right, called Sudra Kamalakara by Pandit Kamalakara. So there was a Pandit called Kamalakara Bhatta, or Kamalakara Bhatt, who wrote a book called Sudra Kamalakara. So it's about Sudras or for Sudras by Kamalakara. So it's called Sudra Kamalakara. And it's very similar to this other one that I was telling you about, which is the Sudrachara Shiromani by Krishna Shesha. So that's another one. And these manuals were made especially for people who don't want to use Vedic mantras, or who they don't want to use Vedic mantras for whatever reason. So it was a complete manual, Prayoga, of all the major samskaras compiled for the use of all Hindus regardless of caste, without the use of archaic and difficult to pronounce Vedic mantras. The learned Pandits compiled these prayogas or procedures for the use of all without prior Vedic study. The traditional sources for the sacraments are the Griha Sutras. Now, there are different Griha Sutras attached to different Vedas. So, for instance, we might have an Ashvalayana Griha Sutra of the Rig Veda. We might have, in the Krishna Yajurveda, normally we are teaching people who don't follow any particular Veda today. We're teaching them specifically Krishna Yajurveda, right? Or we're teaching them according to Apastamba Sutra, Griha Sutra, right? Or Shravaka Sutra if they were doing a Shravaka ceremony. There are different sutras, which are small threads or small aphorisms, which explain the Griha, the samskaras, the householder ceremonies of purification to be performed by people following the Krishna Yajurveda. So Krishna Yajurveda has a few different ones. They have the two which are most often followed these days are Apastamba and Bodhayana. So normally we follow Apastamba, but Bodhayana is also there, which is very similar. Hiranyakeshin is there. There are some other ways of doing it. All of them follow the Krishna Yajurveda. So when we say Griha Sutra, we don't mean it's that there is more than one Griha Sutra that follows each branch of the Veda. So we have 5 Vedas. We have the Rig Veda, we have the Sama Veda, we have the Atharva Veda, and then we have 2 forms of the Yajurveda. We have the black Yajurveda, the Krishna Yajurveda, and the white Yajurveda, right? So these are basically the forms. Now in North and South India, we also have 2 forms of the white Yajurveda. So we have the branch of the white Yajurveda in North India, which is called the Madhyandina Shaka, the Madhyandina branch, or the Vajrasanayans, right? And in South India, we have the Krishna Yajurvedans. We have the Kanva Shaka, or the Kanva branch of the Sukla Yajurveda, the white Yajurveda. So there's different Griha Sutras according to different Vedas. So what he's saying here is the traditional sources for sacraments, for these samskaras, right, are these different Griha Sutras, but the Griha Sutras are following the Vedas. Here we want some books to imitate the samskaras or the purificatory ceremonies, or to mimic them or to copy them, but without use of Vedic mantras. So, and they have variations, right? Some quite radical. This accounts for the differences to be found in the various districts throughout India, because more people of a particular branch of the Veda who follow a particular Griha Sutra live in different places in India. I would not expect to find a lot of people following Krishna Yajurveda in North India, or even to follow Shukla Yajurveda in the Kanva branch in North India. I would not expect to find the people who are following Shukla Yajurveda in the Madhyandina branch, Vajrasanayans, in South India, right? Because they normally stick to their regions like that, the families of Brahmins and families of Traivarnikas who follow those of the three higher classes that follow those particular Vedas. They stay in different parts. So we get in Western India, we get a lot of Rig Vedas, Western and Southwestern India. In northern central India, we get a lot of Shukla Yajurvedas. In South India, we tend to get a lot of Krishna Yajurvedas, Sama Vedas also. And in a very few places, we get Atharva Vedas. So we don't have to worry about making that distinction here because we're doing things according to non-Vedic mantras. So because we're doing things according to non-Vedic mantras, we're simply going to take mantras from the Puranas and the Tantras and the Agamas, and we're going to put them together to make a procedure that helps us to purify our life without using Vedic mantras. So what he says here, the author says here, I have tried as much as possible to combine northern and southern rituals, North Indian and southern Indian rituals, right? And to produce a uniformity of practice as far as possible without compromising the cultural distinctions. But still there will be cultural distinctions between different communities in different parts of India, and also the diaspora of Indians around the world who come from originally those different parts of India. So for instance, Aryans and Bengalis, Biharis, they'll perform their rituals in a certain way, Nepalis in a certain way, and North Central Indians in a certain way, people from Kashmir in a different way, slightly different way, people in Maharashtra, slightly different way, the people in Southern Karnataka and Kerala in a certain way, and in Tamil Nadu and the Deccan Plateau across to Mysore, in Karnataka and Andhra Pradesh and those places in a certain way. So these are the basic general areas in India where you'll find big distinctions between the ritualism, right? All of the rituals are correct according to their sampradaya, which means their tradition or their family lineage, like that. So it's very important also when you meet with people and people want to perform a particular ceremony that you ask them, do you have any specific details of the rituals that you perform in your village or in your state or in your group, in your sect or your according to your lineage, whatever. Please let us know about that. And usually the older members of the family, both males and females, especially the women, the older ladies, will know the details of those things, and you can incorporate those into helping the person to perform a very authentic ritual according to their particular group that they belong to. So I assume that the user has some basic knowledge of Sanskrit and a background in ritual practice. And so the instructions are rather sparse, and ritual steps that are obvious and common knowledge has been left out. Okay, so somebody may get this PDF, they may get this document, and they may read it. And if they don't know anything about puja, if they don't know anything about Sanskrit, if they don't have a ritual background in Hinduism or Vaishnavism, they probably will find it difficult to go through and do it step by step. But for those persons who do have those backgrounds, it should be easy. That's what he's saying. And he's saying that he hasn't. If somebody needs help and they need to put the extra steps in there that are understood by most people who have those backgrounds, then we'll do that as we go through. So if you're totally new to ritual practice, then I would suggest you to read my other books on Hindu ritualism, part 1 and 2, before attempting to use this manual. So if people are interested, we can also go and look at that. But of course, those will involve also some chanting and some use of Vedic mantras. So we can definitely do that. He has some other ritual texts which are about Hindu ritualism. So I have included a few Vedic mantras that are in the public domain, like the Gayatri mantra, the Mahamrityunjaya mantra, and Shanti mantras. So he's saying right up front that he has actually included some Vedic mantras here, right? So if you're not going to use Vedic mantras at all, you will leave those out. But he considers that that's not a problem, because these mantras, like the Gayatri mantra, Mahamrityunjaya mantra, and certain Shanti mantras, are very much in the public domain now, and everybody knows them. And so there's really no objection to people chanting them. And of course, if we want to chant them correctly, though, we would have to chant them with proper Vedic intonation. Okay, but mostly these mantras will be non-Vedic. So this prayoga or procedure is prepared for the English-knowing public, and all care has been taken to transliterate the mantras correctly with international diacritics. So the system of diacritic notation will be IAST, International Association of Sanskrit Transliteration. So if anybody finds the transliteration method here difficult and they want to see it in a different transliteration method, they can also get in touch with me if they have a different transliteration method. Or if you want to see it transformed into an Indic script like Devanagari, Bengali, Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, Oriya, whatever you want, whatever scripts that you can read, or any other Asian script that is based on Brahmi, the original Brahmi Sanskrit script, right? That can be done. It can be changed like that if you have a specific script which you are more familiar with reading. So just get in touch with me at the email address at the end of the video. Okay, so that's the forward. So he's given a transliteration chart here of the Sanskrit alphabet, and he's given the Devanagari and the equivalent syllable, the equivalent letter in the Sanskrit alphabet, and to it. So we just go through it. Kaka gaga na cha 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 kaka gaga kaka gaga na cha 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 nya cha 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 na cha 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 na pa pa ba ba ma yara la va sha sa. He sort of put those in a different order, and ha, and then a Vedic la, Vedic ra, and also a couple of conjuncts, nya, which is also pronounced gya, can be pronounced gya or nya, the J-N, this one down here, and sha, which is a combination of K and the cerebral S, sha. Okay. So he hasn't included actually all of the different vowel signs. So this is a little bit incomplete. Anybody who's interested in the pronunciation, we have a good video on the website again on our YouTube channel. You look for Vedic chanting and introduction to classical and Sanskrit chanting, and you'll find a video explaining all of that. So it's assumed that the user has some prior knowledge of puja and ritual in general, and so basic instructions, which are common to all pujas and well-known to practitioners, have been left out. If you have any doubt or need for some guidance, please contact your local pundit or temple priest to assist you. Okay, very good. So let's start with part one. The Arnikam. The Arnikam means the daily rituals that a person would be doing. The first thing we have is Prataha Smaranam. Prataha means in the morning. Smarana means what do we remember or what do we meditate upon in the morning? Morning reflections. Upon waking, chant the name of Lord Hari 3, 6, or 7 times. So Hari, 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 or Hari, 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 Hari. Right. So that is chant the names of the Lord. So then there's a prayer that he gives for guidance, prayer for guidance. Trailokya Chaitanya Mayadi Deva, Srinatha Vishnu Bhavad Agyaiva, Prata Samudaya, Tava Karyartam, Samsara Yatram, Anuvartayishye. Right? So, O primeval Lord, the pervading consciousness of the 3 worlds, O Lord of Lakshmi, O Vishnu, with your sanction alone, I have risen this morning in order to serve you. I proceed on the journey of life. Very nice prayer. Then he gives another prayer. Janami dharmam na chame pravitir, janamya dharmam na chame nivritihi, kenapi devena ridistitena yata niyuktosmi tata kuromi. Okay, so I know full well that what is my duty, but I am not naturally inclined thereto. I know full well what is forbidden, but I cannot abstain therefrom. I shall do your will, O Lord, as you being seated in my heart are guiding me through my conscience. So that's nice. So this is all done while lying in bed. And then before getting out of bed, before putting one's foot on the floor, right, putting one's foot on the earth is considered the consort of the Supreme Lord, Sriman Narayana, so Bhudevi, Bhumi Devi. And so therefore we have to pray first of all to the earth before we put our foot on her, right? Pray for her forgiveness. So, Samudravasane Devi, Parvatastana Mandale, Vishnu Patni Namastubhyam Parasparsha Chamashvame. The word Chamashva means forgive. Chamashvame means forgive me. O Mother Earth, the consort of Lord Vishnu, with the oceans as your skirts and the mountains as your breasts, salutations to you. Please excuse the touch of my feet. So now we have a prayer for altruistic intent. Na kanksheham rajyam na swargam na chapuna bhavam. Kankshaye dukkha taptanam praninam artinashanam. I don't desire kingship, nor heaven, nor even liberation from rebirth. All I desire is that all beings should be free from their suffering. So it's a very altruistic prayer. So now we have prayer of the hands. The reason he's talking about the hands is that actually at this point in waking up in the morning, one should look at his right hand, and he should meditate upon the hand and different parts of the hand as representative of different devatas, different energies of the Lord, or you could call them demigods. At the tip of the fingers resides Lakshmi. At the base of the palm, Saraswati. At the center is situated Brahma, right? In the morning, we gaze upon our hands. So, Karagre Vasate Lakshmi, Karagre Vasate Lakshmi, Karamule Saraswati, Karamadye Stito Brahma, Prabhate Karadarshanam. Darshanam means to see. So then he's going to give a little bit of an explanation here. The purport is, this verse is recited upon waking up every morning to remind us that we ourselves are the authors of our own destinies. We create our own happiness and sorrows through our actions. Everything that we do has a reaction known as karma. When we do good to others, it comes back to us. When we cause suffering to others, it also comes back to us. Therefore, we think of Brahma, the god of creation, as situated in the center of our palms, reminding us to be mindful of what exactly we are doing. Mother Lakshmi, as the goddess of compassion and resources, used for the benefit of others, resides in the tips of our fingers. This reminds us that all resources, wealth, knowledge, etc., are all meant for the benefit of all beings. Saraswati, as the goddess of learning and knowledge, is thought of as residing in the base of the palm. This is to remind us that the pursuit of knowledge is the most important thing in our lives, because knowledge and education opens the gates to success. Okay. So then after this, the person gets up and then he goes for his bath. He goes for his ablutions in his bath. So before doing the bath, right, the first ritual that we do in the morning, ritual bath, right, there's what we call a sankalpa. Now, sankalpa is a statement of intent or a vow. Right? We ritually meditate upon what we're going to do, and we then out loud, we say in words exactly what we're going to do, what we're promising to do, and then we do it. So this is called sankalpa. So this is a common feature of all rituals, so Hindu rituals, is we start off with this statement of intent or vow called a sankalpa. And here's how this sankalpa goes. Hari Om Tat Sata. Mama upata samasta duritakshaya dwara Sri Parameshwara prityatam akritya karna bhagavad apachara adinam nana vidanam sarvesham papanam sadhya apanodana dvara nitya naimitika kamyata siddhyartham shnanagare Snanagare prataha snanam aham karishye. So what does this mean? It means, in order to absolve myself of all my transgressions, to please the Supreme Lord, in order to immediately rectify all those various offenses which I have committed, having done the deeds which I shouldn't have done, having not done what I should have done, offenses to the Lord and to other devotees, right? And to make myself fit to perform the daily as well as the periodical duties incumbent on me, I take my morning bath in this bathroom, right? So, of course, in ancient times, we would leave the house. There was no indoor plumbing, and we would go at a distance, pass urine and stool in a certain place, and then go to a body of water like a pond or a river or a tank or the ocean, and or pull water from a well with a pure pot and take bath in that way. But nowadays, they have indoor plumbing, they have bathrooms, so people can just go into the bathroom. They can say this sankalpa, this statement of intent, and then they can proceed to taking their bath. So now, if you're actually outside and you're going to bathe in a sacred pool or a tank next to a temple or in a river, there are some other mantras and some other prayers that you can say. Samasta Jagaradhara Sankachakragaradhara Dehi Deva Mamanugyam Yushmat Tirtha Nisevane. O Lord, who is the basis of the entire universe, the wielder of the conch, discus, and mace, please give me permission to use your sacred waters. So we are addressing the personality in charge of that sacred place, that sacred river or sacred tank. Huh? So then, usually the Hindu or the Vaishnava, he thinks that the water should be purifying to himself, and therefore he thinks of sacred waters coming and residing within the water which he takes bath in. So this is done by invoking the Ganges and other sacred rivers, the waters of the Ganges and other sacred rivers, by use of prayers or mantras. So here we have a lot of these slokas a lot of these verses are all anustup. They're all 32 syllables long in 2 lines of 16 syllables. They can also be broken up into quarters of 8 syllables, 4 times 8, 32, 2 times 16, 32, 32 syllables. This is called anustup mita in classical Sanskrit. And so most of these verses are like that. We saw a few verses just coming before that were slightly different number of syllables, but these are mostly like this. So, avahayami tvam devi snanatam yasundari ehi gange namastubhyam sarvatirtha samanvite gange cha yamune chaiva godavari saraswati narmade sindhu kaveri jalaismin sanidim kuru pushkaradhyani tirtani gangadhya saritastata agachantu Mahabhagaha Snanakale Sadamama. And do we have any others? No. Okay, so let's read the translations. I invoke you, O beautiful goddess Ganga, in order to take my bath. Please be present here in these waters. Salutations to you who are present in all the sacred tirthas. Tirthas means sacred holy waters or places. May Ganga, Yamuna, Godavari, Saraswati, Narmada, Sindhu, and Kaveri be present here in this water. O great beings, may the Pushkara and all sacred waters along with the Ganga always be present here at time of bathing. Okay, so these are prayers to do before taking bath, and then somebody simply takes bath. After taking bath, one can dress in clean clothes like that. Maybe in performing a ritual, maybe one's going to wear ritually pure clothing like a dhoti wrapped in 5 places called a panchakacha, or a sari which is called a marisar, or a pure sari which is 9 yards long and wrapped in certain ways. So there are different forms, and the male, the husband who is wearing a dhoti, he can also wear an uttariya or an angavastram, which is a top cloth, two pieces of cloth for the male, one for the female. Of course, the ladies can also wear cholas to cover the top part of their bodies. And this is a general a way of dressing amongst Hindus, and especially in India or in other countries when performing these Hindu rituals or Vaishnava ritual practices like that. Today, sometimes the Yajamana will not wear these. The Yajamana and his wife and family, they'll wear the normal regular social clothes that people wear, as long as it's a modest form of clothing. They can wear that as long as it's clean and they're dressed modestly. They can also attend and they can be sponsors of the puja. Right. So here we have a Sandhya Vandana Vidhi. Now remember, this is a tantric or agamic Sandhya Vandana. So the Gayatri mantra, he said that he is going to be using the Gayatri mantra, so he may use the Gayatri mantra in this from the Vedas. But normally the Tantric Sandhya Vandana or Puranic Sandhya Vandana or Pancharatric Sandhya Vandana, Agamic Sandhya Vandana will be done with purely Agamic mantras. So he says here the preparation is first a tilak should be made on the forehead with sandal paste or clay. If going to work, it can be done with water only. So one can find out from his forefathers or from his teachers, his gurus, right, how to mark the forehead and if possible other parts of the upper body with either with water or with sandal paste or clay or vibhuti, this sacred ash, and the method for doing this you can find out from some other place. So as he said, every little detail is not going to be given here for people who understand these things. So then sit on a mat facing the east, right? Because in the morning and the west in the evening, wherever the sun is, the sun goes down in the west in the evening, it rises up in the east in the morning. So wherever the sun is considered by Hindus and Vaishnavas to be Surya Narayana. And that is also called Pratyaksha Devata, the God that we can actually see with our eyes, the form of God or the limb of God in this world, how God enters into this world and who nourishes and protects us and supports us as the sun, like that. So sit on a mat facing east in the morning and west in the evening with a panchapatra. Now, what is a panchapatra? The word panchapatra literally means 5 vessels, but it is one vessel. And it is a vessel with a spoon. So it's usually a metal vessel with a metal spoon with some water in it. If you can't get that particular vessel, you can use some other sort of tumbler or glass with a spoon with some water in it, like that. So, and a tray in front of you. A tray. Usually the tray should have some lip on it, some sides on it. If we're going to be offering arghya or tarpanas into the tray, if we're going to offer water oblations into the tray, then we don't want it to flow off the side. So it's not a completely flat tray. A flat tray, yes, but with the raised sides. Okay? And probably that's made of metal also, like that. The best types of metals, of course, silver, gold, copper, right, brass or bronze, like that. If you can't get those sort of metals, then stainless steel, you can use steel, like that, if necessary. Okay, so then take a seat. First, sit down on this mat. Now, the mat can be made of cloth or especially wool cloth, or it can be made of kusha grass. It can be made of some substance which is pure. So if you have just a wool blanket, you can just fold up a wool blanket into a small square and you can sit on that. Or if there's a whole family there, they can all sit on a wool blanket. Take a seat and touch the ground and recite the following verse. Right? So take a seat, sit down, touch with your right hand, touch with 4 fingers of the right hand, just touch the ground in front of you, and just think about the goddess of the earth, and think that you're sitting on her and that she should support you, and chant the following prayer: Prithvi Tvaya Drita Loka Devi Tvam Vishnuna Drita Tvam Cha Dharaya Mam Devi Pavitram Kuruchasanam. Right. So, O Mother Earth, you support the world, and you in turn are supported by Lord Vishnu. Please support me, O Goddess, and purify my seat. Okay, so this is preliminary. This is called asana shuddhi, or purification of the seat, and prayer to the earth. Bhusparsha, touching the earth. So, think of all your gurus, all of the teachers in your life who taught you different subjects, especially spiritual gurus, right? And pay them pay them your respects. Om Sarvebhyo Gurubhyo Namaha. Sarvebhyo Gurubhyo Namaha. Salutations to all my spiritual masters, all my teachers. And just as we do in the beginning of all of our videos, you can substitute Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Paramagurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Sarvagurubhyo Namaha for that. If you want to do it in a more elaborate way and to mention all of the different preceptors, spiritual preceptors in your lineage going back all the way to Sriman Narayana or to Krishna or to Rama, like that, you can do that like that. For that information, you please approach your elders, especially your gurus, and have them explain to you the different methods of Guru Parampara Anusandanam, or meditation upon the Guru Parampara, the step-by-step lineage of spiritual teachers. So it can be chanted in two ways. It can be chanted in the Vakya Parampara style or in the Sloka Parampara style. The Sloka Parampara style will be chanting of specific verses which are in praise of each guru or each spiritual master, starting from your guru, going all the way back to the Lord, right? Or the Vakya Parampara will simply be saying the name of the guru in the dative case in Sanskrit, adding Namaha and preceded by Omkara. So Om, Asmat Gurubhyo Namaha, Asmat Paramagurubhyo, Asmat Sarvagurubhyo Namaha, Srimati Ramanujana Namaha, Srimati Parankusha Dasana Namaha, Srimati Gunamuni Namaha, Srimati Ramanujana Namaha, like that, going back all the way to the Sriman Narayana. So that you have to learn for your own lineage from your parents, from your forefathers, from your spiritual teachers. Okay? So that is called Shishtachara. Shishtachara means following in the footsteps of our elders or our ancestors. So consecrate the water, which is to be used by showing the Ankusha Mudra and touching the Panchapatra. So we have this Panchapatra, we have this steel vessel, right? Or it could be silver, right? With a silver spoon. And inside it, we have some water. So we're going to show the Ankusha Mudra. The Ankusha Mudra, mudras are hand entwining of the fingers of the hands in certain shapes, which help us to meditate upon certain aspects of the ritual. So here, the particular mudra is called the Ankusha Mudra. The Ankusha Mudra is, Ankusha means a stick it's a hooked stick. It's like a stick with a hook and a point for controlling elephants. So by taking the right hand, if we fold down the little and ring finger to the middle of the palm, we leave the middle finger up, and then we bend the index finger at a 45-degree angle, right? And then hold the thumb against the index finger. That is called or we can also hold the two fingers against the hand with the thumb, like that. That is called the Ankusha Mudra. Yeah. Okay, hope everybody can see that. Right. And then what we do is sometimes people can touch the top, just touch with the pad of the middle finger of the right hand, touch the top of the water and stir it. Or you don't have to stir it, you can just touch it, or you can just hold it next to the water like that. But be very, very careful not to touch your fingernail, any of your fingernails to the water, because that is considered contaminate the water. So we want the water to remain pure. We want to meditate on the water being pure. So in case there's any dirt under our fingernails, we don't want to touch our fingernails to the water. The fingernails themselves are gross like hair. They come out of the body and they have to be cut. They have to be cleaned. They have to be pared back on occasions, and so does the hair. So these outgrowths of the material body, we don't want those to touch any items that we use in ritualistic worship. Right? So we want to meditate on everything being pure. We show the Ankusha Mudra over the Panchapatra, the vessel holding the water with the spoon. The spoon is called an Udarani, and that Panchapatra is the vessel with water. So now, so we can show the Ankusha Mudra, or we can just touch the Panchapatra. Just touch it, but remember, once again, don't touch your nails to the water. So just touch the Panchapatra and say the following prayer. Ganga Chai Muni Chaiva Godavari Saraswati Narmade Sindhu Kaveri Jalisman Sanidem Kuru. We already chanted this mantra when we were taking bath. And again, we should meditate upon the holy rivers of India, the holy waters of those rivers entering into that water in the Panchapatra that we're going to now use in a ritualistic way. So I invoke the 7 cosmic energies represented by the 7 sacred rivers, Ganga, Yamuna, Godavari, Saraswati, Narmada, Sindhu, and Kaveri, to be present here in this water. So the next thing that we do is we've meditated upon the water being pure, and we're going to use that water, first of all, for performing the next ritual, which is called, these are all common rituals, right, which is called Achamana. Now, Achamana means the sipping of water 3 times, and it's usually followed by Angavandana, which means paying obeisance or paying respects to different parts of the body by touching those different parts with different names of the Lord. So we chant names of the Lord. There are some sects and some sampradayas that chant different mantras for this, and you can again ask your teachers or your gurus or your family ancestors, or your parents or whoever is teaching you how to perform Achamana. You could ask them how to perform Achamana. This is a very simple Achamana, and it's based upon a verse that comes in an Ayurvedic text, which says that Achyuta, Ananta, and Govinda are 3 names that will help us to be free from disease. Naturally, the diseased body is contaminated. We want a pure body to be able to perform the ritual purely. So we want to be free from those diseases. So we chant these 3 names, Achyuta, Ananta, and Govinda. So this is also described in the Palashruti or the results of chanting the 1,000 names of Vishnu or Vishnu Sahasranama. Achyuta, Ananta, Govinda, Namo Charana Beshajat, Nasyanti Shakala Roga, Satyam Satyam Vidami Aham. I say again and again that this is true, that by chanting these 3 names, we will be freed from all different forms of disease and contamination. Right. So Achyuta, Ananta, and Govinda. So we take, first of all, what we do is we take the udarani or the spoon with the left hand. Now, before taking the spoon with the left hand, some people insist that you should first take it with the right hand and then transfer it to the left hand. Some people also insist that you should first of all take the spoon with the right hand, wash the right hand, then also wash the left hand, and then transfer the spoon to the left hand. Whatever you do, anyway, if you want to make it easy, just take the spoon with the left hand, take a spoonful of water, place it in the palm of your right hand, then repeat the mantra and then sip the water without making too much noise about it. Just sip the water, right, from the root of the palm here. This is called the Brahma Tirtha. This is the place where we sip the water from, like that. There are other parts of the palm which are used for offering water to other living beings like rishis, ancestors, pitris, and devatas, and other living beings like that. So, but for right now, just for us, for Brahma and for us, we take through the Brahma Tirtha, sip through the Brahma Tirtha. So this is after we say these mantras. So we have these names, Achyuta, Ananta, and Govinda, in the dative case singular, Achyutaya, Anantaya, Govindaya. We precede them with Om and end them with Namaha. So each time. So we take some water, place it in the right hand, say Om Achyutaya Namaha, salutations to the intangible one, sip the water. Right? Now some people after sipping, because they touched their mouth, or if they didn't touch their mouth, that's fine. Then there may be a little bit of water left over, which they can wash their hand with, or they can take some more water and just wash the hand before they put the water for the next sip. It's up to you. Or you can simply put some more water there and consider that part of the water is for washing that you sip. Right. So Om Achyutaya Namaha, sip. Om Anantaya Namaha, sip. Om Govindaya Namaha, sip. Oh, salutations to the intangible one, salutations to the eternal one, salutations to the Lord of the universe. That is Achamana. Now, normally in rituals, this is to be done twice. So you do it once and then do it again. Do it again, right? But but also we have after this we have the Angavandhanam, or touching the different parts of the body with other names of the Lord, like that. So first of all, we do the touching of the Angavandhanam, the Nyasa. Nyasa means touching or placing, right? And sanctifying the physical body as a temple of God, right? So here are the different places and the different names to be used, like that. Yeah, The verse for Achyutananda and Govinda is found in the Palashruti of Vishnu Sahasranama. Achyutananda Govinda Namacharana Veshadat Nasyanti Sakala Roga Satyam Satyam Vadami Aham. And we can the original part, the original Shastra that it's probably from either Mahabharata or it could be from some Ayurvedic text. Okay, we have to look it up, but we do know that it's there in the Palashruti of Vishnu Sahasranama. So, as is chanted by most people, especially amongst Sri Vaishnavas. So, okay, so here we have the Angavandanam, or touching different parts of the body after we sip the water 3 times. So after we sip the water 3 times, we can also wash the hands again. Put some water in the right hand and wash the 2 hands. And then we can touch the various parts of the body indicated while reciting the names of God and using the fingers of the right hand only, and touch the right organ first and then the left organ if there's 2 organs to be touched, right? So here what we've done is he's given the smarta method. The smarta method is to simply say the name of the Lord, Keshava, Narayana, Madhava, Govinda, in the vocative case, without Om and without Namaha. But we can also say it in the dative case with Om and Namaha, just as we give Om Achyutaya Namaha, Om Anantaya Namaha, Om Govindaya Namaha. So here, these are the 12 names of God, and he's mentioned in the right-hand column here that these different places are the seats of fire, the seats of the sun, the seats of the wind, the seats of Indra, etc. Different places on the body and different fingers that indicate these different energies of the Lord. So here he goes. Keshava, Narayana, Madhava, Govinda, right? Vishnu, Madhusudana, Trivikrama, Vamana, Sridhara, Rishikesha, Padmanabha, touching the navel with the flat of the right hand, and Damodara, touching the top of the head, right? So we can also do this in the same way as we did Om Achyutaya Namaha, Om Anantaya Namaha, Om Govindaya Namaha. We can say Om Keshavaya Namaha, Om Keshavaya Namaha, Om Narayanaya Namaha, Om Madhavaya Namaha, Om Govindaya Namaha, Om Vishnuvaya Namaha, Om Sudhanaya Namaha, Om Trikrama, Om Vamanaya Namaha, Sridharaya Namaha, Sridharaya Namaha, Om Rishikeshaya Namaha, Om Padmanabhaya Namaha, Om Damodara Namaha. Okay. So once this is all gone through, that can be done twice. Achyutaya Namaha, Anantaya Namaha, Om Govindaya Namaha, Om Keshavaya Namaha, Om Narayanaya Namaha, Om Madhavaya, like that. So normally in South India, this type of achmana is used in Andhra Pradesh and Tamil, especially in Tamil Nadu, like that. And this is the way the Smartas do it, with the vocative case for the names. And the Vaishnavas usually say Om Keshavaya Namaha, Om Narayana Namaha, with Om and Namaha. So you'll find in other parts of India, some people, they say Om Vishnu, Om Vishnu, Om Vishnu. And there are other Vedic mantras which are also used for Achmana. There are Shaivites who use Shaiva mantras for Achmana. There are also other people who use Om Keshavaya Namaha, Om Narayana Namaha, Om Madhavaya Namaha as the first 3 mantras for sipping. So these all have to be, the specific method of Achmana should be learned from your guru or from your lineage, as I said. But this is the system, this is the general system used in Tamil Nadu. So the next thing we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about Vigna Apaharanam. Could also be called Nivaranam. Vigna Apaharanam means the elimination of spiritual obstacles. So reciting the following mantra and striking the temples of the head, all right, gently with closed fists, imagining the spiritual force descending from heaven and pervading the entire body. We should chant the following. So what we're doing is we're going to take the two fists and we're going to gently tap on the head like this, and we say Shuklam Paradaram Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavaranam Dhyayet Sarvavigno Pashantaye. Now, that is what the Smartas do in South India. Vaishnavas, they don't tap on the head, but Smartas usually 4 or 5 times they tap during the chanting of that. And Vaishnavas, they just will fold their hands in front and say, Shuklam Bharadram Vishnu, Shashivanam Chaturбhuджam, Prasannavadhanam Dhyayet, Sarvavighnopashantaye. And they will add another verse, Yasya Dviradavakradyaha, Parisadya Parasadam, Vignam Nignanti Sadam, Vishvaksenam, Tamashraye. So these are prayers to, that last prayer is a prayer to Vishvaksena, who is a servant of Lord Vishnu and also comes in the Sri Vaishnava Guru Parampara after Mahalakshmi. And the first prayer, the Shuklam Bharadram Vishnum, is differently understood by Smartas and Vaishnavas. The Smartas understand it to be a prayer to Ganesh, so it is sometimes called Ganapati Pranam, to clear away obstacles. The Vaishnavas understand it to be a prayer to Lord Vishnu or Sriman Narayana, specifically to Lord Hayagriva, who gives us the knowledge to be able to perform the ritual. So in any case, we try to think about the energy of the Supreme Lord entering into our body and giving us the spiritual force or the spiritual energy to be able to perform the rest of the ritual. Right, so what does it mean? It means I contemplate on the all-pervading Lord, clad in bright raiment, resplendent like the moon, the four-armed and cheerful-faced one for the elimination of all obstacles. So after this, we do what is called pranayama. Pranayama means breath control, right? Yama means rules or control, and prana means the breath, the vital air. So there are different airs understood to be in the body that do different things in the body. But we want to try and control the breathing by breathing in through one side of the nose, holding the breath inside the body, and then breathing out through the other nostril. So this is symbolic. This is done symbolically by holding the index finger, right? The index finger, and middle fingers into the palm of the right hand. Right, so we take those two fingers, hold them into the palm, right? And the other fingers that we have left over, we have the thumb, and we have the two other fingers, the little finger and the ring finger of the right hand. So those are going to hold both sides of the nose. Yeah, some people put the fingers up. Some people hold it in like that. Whichever way you want to do it is fine, like that. Now, this is a mantra. This is called Dirgha Gayatri mantra. This is actually a Vedic mantra. So there are other ways of doing pranayam without this Vedic mantra, which this Vedic mantra includes the middle line is Om Tat Savadaranyam Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayat, which is of course the Gayatri mantra from the Rig Veda, 122.20, Rig Veda 122.20. And the rest of it is the Omkara, which is the pranava, the mystical syllable from the Vedas, which is the essence of the Vedas, which is Om, right? Along with 7 mystical syllables in the first line, Bhur, Bhuva, Suvaha, Mahaha, Janaha, Tapaha, and Satyam, right? Which are considered different levels of consciousness or different chakras within the body or different levels in the universe, right? All of these things are understood by these specific mantras, which are called Vyahriti mantras. So these are called the Sapta Vyahritis or 7 Vyahritis, right? So we could say, and then the last line is called the Gayatri Shiras, which is the head of Gayatri, which is also a Vedic mantra, and it goes Om Apo Jyotira Samritam Brahma Bhur Bhuvas Suvarom, like that. People in northern and central India and some places of India who follow different Vedic schools or branches of the Veda may say, instead of Suvaha, they may say Sva. Instead of Suvaha, they say Suva, right? They say Sva. Instead of Suva, they say Sva, leaving out the U. Okay, so then what it says is, okay, it says that we should close the nostrils. Then closing. So first of all, closing the nostrils with the thumb and the ring finger while reciting the following mantra, like that. So breathing in, normally we breathe in through the left nostril first. We then close. We're first of all closing the right nostril with the right thumb. Then breathing in through the left nostril. Then close after we've breathed, holding our breath. And then within the mind, we say this mantra. Om Boho, Om Bhavaha, Ogum Suvaha, Om Bahaha, Om Janaha, Om Tapaha, Ogum Satyam. Om Tat Savidavare Inyam Bargo Devasya Dhimahi Dhiyo Yo Na Prachodayate. Om Apo Jyotira Samritam Brahmabhor Bhuvasvaro. After we're finished, we should then touch the right ear to purify the hand, because the holy rivers are considered to be in the right ear, to reside within the right ear and purify the hand after touching the nose. So that'll be just explained in a second here. So what does this mean? What does it mean? What does it mean? It means, the material world. There are other ways of doing pranayama where we repeat other mantras, bija mantras like Om or Kleem, or short mantras like Om Namo Narayanaya. There are different ways of doing pranayama. Okay. So, and some people, they use part of the mantra for breathing in, part of the mantra for breathing out, and part of the mantra for holding. And when we're doing rituals, when people are doing rituals, many times the priest or the yajamana who's doing the ritual will simply not say the mantra in his mind, but say the mantra out loud, just holding the nose, and there's no actual breathing going on. Although everybody has to breathe, of course, but he won't be holding the breath. But really, if we want to do pranayama correctly, we should be holding the breath and we should be chanting this in the mind. So sometimes the priest will be chanting the mantra and the yajamana, will be holding his breath like that. So, the material world, on the material world, on the realm of the mind, on the realm of light, on the realm of vastness, on the realm of creative delight, on the realm of unobstructed will, on the realm of highest truth. May we meditate upon the adorable light of the divine creator, and may he direct our intelligence. Om. He is in the water, light, flavor, nectar of immortality, and also pervades the three realms, physical, mental, and spiritual. He who is denoted by pranava, Om, is all these. Right. So, thereafter, do srotra achamana. Srotra means the ear. Achamana is what we did before, sipping for purification. So, srotra achamana means simply touching the right ear for purification. By touching the right ear with the right hand. Ganga, or the Ganges, resides in the right ear. Then make Brahmanjali by placing the left hand upturned on the right thigh and clasping it with the right hand downwards. So we put the left hand on top of our right thigh like this and clasp the right hand on top like that. This is the sign that we're going to do the sankalpa, or the statement of intent. So also we can note that when we wake up in the morning, we can also do this srotrachamana, touch the ear for purification before we chant those prayers when we're in bed and before getting out and touching the earth. Right. So in fact, some people just simply touch the ear, the right ear, for purification. That's called srotrachamana. We can also touch the tip of the nose and the right ear, because the tip of the nose is also very warm. It's a seat of Agni, and Agni is fire. The fire will purify the warmth of the nose. The fire of the nose will purify the hand, and so will the water of the Ganges in the ear. So sometimes people do this 3 times, and they consider that to be srotrachamana also. So we can simply touch the right ear. Some people, when they're doing pranayama, they do the mantra Om Bhuvu Om Bhuvaha Om Subaha Om Mahaham Jaraham Tabha Om Satyam Om Tatsavare Inyam Bargodi Vasidimehi Vyoyana Pachoria Ate Om Apo Jyotir Samutam Brahma Bhuvasivarom. Sometimes people do 3 sets of the pranayama. They breathe in through the left nostril, hold, say the mantra, breathe out through the right, then they breathe in again through the right and hold, and breathe out through the left, and again they breathe in through the left and breathe out through the right. And this is called 3 different cycles of pranayama. So sometimes pranayama is done 3 times, but in a simple situation, you can just simply do it once. The mantra with all the 3 lines is called Dirgha Gayatri. And some people actually do japa of this Dirgha Gayatri, that not just the middle line, which is the Gayatri mantra, but also the first line, including all the Saptavyahritis, all the 7 things, and the last line, the Gayatri Siras as well. Okay, so that is pranayamaha. That is Vedic pranayamaha. And there's, as I said, there are other pranayamahas which are not with these Vedic mantras. So now with our hands in the Sankalpa mudra, which is he calls here Brahmanjali, sometimes Brahmanjali is also holding the palms together in front of the chest. This is usually just called Anjali mudra. But Brahmanjali, holding the hands in the Sankalpa Mudra on the right, we're sitting down cross-legged on the right knee or on the right thigh. So we say the Sankalpa. The Sankalpa here is going to be the Sankalpa for performing the Sandhya Vandanam. What are we doing? We're performing the Puranic Sandhya Vandanam. So we say Hari Om Tat Sat, as we said before, Govinda, Govinda, Govinda. So the previous Sankalpa he did was a Smarta Sankalpa where he said Mamopata Samasta Turi Takshaya Dwara. Here he's adding Govinda, Govinda, Govinda. Right? See, if we look before, we'll see, was there a Sankalpa there? See, he didn't put here Hari Om Tat Sat instead of Govinda, Govinda, Govinda. He just said Mamopata Samasta Turi Takshaya Dwara, which is the normal Smarta Sankalpa. But down here, he's added Govinda, 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 because he's going to explain how the Vaishnavas do it, especially in Tamil Nadu. So he says here, Hari Om Tat Sat. Some people say Govinda, Govinda, Govinda. Some people say Shri Govinda, Govinda, Govinda. Mama Upata Samasta Duritachaya Dwara Shri Parameshwara Prityatam, which is usually what the Smartas say. And Vaishnavas usually say Bhagavad Agyaya, Bhagavad Kainkariya Rupam, right? And there are also some Vaishnavas who say Bhagavad Agyaya, Bhagavad Prityartam, for the pleasure of the Lord. Kainkariya Rupam means for the service of the Lord. And then what we're going to actually be performing, the intent of our Sankalpa, or of our vow, is Prataha Sayam Sandhya Upashishe. He hasn't included the midday Sandhya. There are actually 3 Sandhyas or 3 places where the sun meets. The night meets the day at dawn, the forenoon meets the afternoon at noon, and the day meets the night at dusk. So there are actually 3 Sandhyas where we can do this type of, if somebody's doing also tantric worship, he might be up at midnight in the middle of the night, and that would be when the 4 midnight meets the after midnight. So that would be a 4th Sandhya that's possible. But normally the Gayatri Mantra, because it has to do with Surya, right, has to do with Surya Narayana, we don't do that in the middle of the night. But there are some tantric pujas which might involve doing a Sandhya at the middle of the night. So here he's mentioned just Prataha and Sayam, and he's put a bar there in between them, / to indicate that in the morning we do Prataha, and we say morning Sandhya Vandanam, and in the evening we say evening Sandhya Vandanam. If we're going to do it at noon, we say Madhyanikam Karisye. We don't say Sandhya Upashishe, we say Madhyanikam Karisye. Okay, so you can take note of that. So here we'll say Hari Om Tat Sat, Govinda, Govinda, Govinda. Mamupata Samasta Duritachaya Dwara Shri Parameshwara Prityatam. Or Vaishnava say Bhagavad Agyaya, Bhagavad Kainkariya Rupam. Prataha Sandhimupashishe in the morning, and Sayam Sandhimupashishe at night. Or Madhyanikam Karishye in the noon. So what does that mean? In order to absolve myself of all my transgressions and to please the Supreme Being, Vaishnavas say, with the sanction of the Supreme Being and as service to him alone, I now perform the morning, midday, or evening devotions. So although it is recommended to do Sandhya 3 times daily, in practical life it is not possible, so twice is the best, or even if this cannot be done, at least one can do it once a day. So he's giving some examples for people who perhaps they can't do Sandhya Vandanam in the middle of the day or at the end of the day. Another thing that people do in India today is that if they have to go to the office and later on they'll be at the office and they can't do the midday Sandhya Vandanam, then they do the morning and then they do the midday Sandhya Vandanam before leaving for the office in the morning or before leaving for work in the morning. In some cases, one may have to do all 3 Sandhya Vandanams before he leaves in the morning, like that. If he works so hard, or if he has unable to find time to do the other Sandhya Vandanams at other times of the day, at least in the beginning of the day after we take bath, we should do the Sandhya Vandanams because we have to be clean when we do the Sandhya Vandanams. So if we can't find time to take another bath during the day, we should do them all at once. So do one, do the next one, then do the next one, like that. In that way, we can do all 3. Okay, so now he says marjana. Marjana means sprinkling of water on yourself to purify the body. Take the left hand, take a spoon of water, dip the ring finger Take a spoon of water, and in the spoon of water, dip the ring finger in the water to touch with the ring finger of the right hand on the top of the water, and then take it and sprinkle drops of water on top of your head 7 times with the following mantra. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Salutations to all-pervading Supreme Lord, to the all-pervading Supreme Lord. Then pour some water into the right hand and sprinkle it clockwise around the head. Right. So what's he saying to do it? Do it 7 times. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, 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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It's some water in the head. Circumambulate the head. Letting that water flow out from between the fingertips as it goes around the head clockwise. Okay, so this is called Marjanam. And then he's doing it with the 12-syllable Vishnu mantra called the Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya mantra. It has Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, 12 syllables. Right. So there are other Vishnu mantras. Om Namo Narayana has 8 syllables. Om Namo Vishnave has 6 syllables. These are 3 very important Vyapaka mantras, which talk about the all-expansiveness and all-pervasiveness of the Supreme Lord, which can be used. Here he's picked Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. It's a very, very common mantra everybody knows. So now the next thing is Aposanam. Aposanam means we're going to take some water after reciting some prayers. So take a little water in the right palm. So take the spoon with the left hand from the Panchapatra, and we're going to take some water and put it in the right palm. And then we say, Apastvam asi devesha jyotisam patir evacha papam nashaya me deva yan mana karya kamajam. And we also say, Agani yanyatitani yani shagan kanivai vart samanani Yuyantam Agamarshana Karmana. Right? And then sip that water. Right? He hasn't mentioned to sip it, but then you should just sip it. Right. So, what is the meaning of this? You are pervading all waters, Lord of gods. You are the master of all celestial lights. Absolve me of all my sins, O Lord, sins that I have committed by thought and deed, and the effects of my previous sins. May all those sins of the past and those of the future and those of the present all be absolved through this ceremony of expiation. So we should think of all our sins. So basically we can think of the sins that we may have performed. If it's the morning Sandhya Vandana, we think of the sins since the last Sandhya Vandana in the evening of the previous day. If it's the noon Sandhya Vandana, we can think of any mistakes or sins that we committed in the morning since the morning Sandhya Vandana. If it's the evening Sandhya Vandana, any sins or mistakes that we made before the evening, before afternoon, in the afternoon. So we can think of all these sins being absolved and sip the water. The next thing we're going to do is offer water to the sun, which is called Arghya Pradhanam. So Surya Arghya Pradhanam, offering a libation to the sun. We have to do a separate sankalpa for this. Some people say you don't have to do a separate sankalpa because you already did a sankalpa in the beginning saying that you're going to do Sandhya Vandanam. Sandhya Vandanam includes Surya Arghya and Gayatri Japa, right? So therefore, you don't have to do a separate one, but he's doing a separate one here. So what he does is, again, you take the hands and put them in the Brahmanjali Mudra, put them on the right knee and say, Hari Om Tat Sara, Mamo Pata Samasta Duritakshaya Dwara Shri Parameshwara Prityatam, or Bhagavadagyaya Bhagavatenka Yurupam, Prataha, or Shayam, or Madhyanikam, Surya Arga Pradhanam Karishye. In order to absolve myself of all my transgressions, to please the Supreme Being, or Vaishnavas say, with the sanction of the Supreme Being as service to him alone, I now offer my morning, evening libations to the sun. So take some water in the right hand and recite the mantra, and then pour it on the ground from the fingertips. Repeat 3 times. So pour the water on, repeat 3 times. Repeat 3 times. Repeat 3 times this mantra, like that. Now we have a tray in front of us, so we can pour it in the tray. because if we're inside, we can pour it in the tray. If you're outside, you can pour it on the ground, or you can stand next to a garden, pour it on some plants, whatever you want. But inside, if we're inside, we don't want to throw the water simply on the floor. So that's why we have that plate that we talked about in the beginning, that we pour the water into the plate. So here's the mantra, right? Ehi Surya Sahasram Sho. Tejo Rashe Jagat. I think this should be Jagat Pate. He's got Jagat Tapate. That's too many syllables, so it should be Jagat Pate. Anukampaya Madbhaktya Grihanargyam Divakara. Right. O Supreme Lord of the universe, manifest in yonder sun, having 1,000 rays, the source of all energy. Have mercy on me and accept this libation of water offered with devotion. Right. So this should be done facing the sun, of course, the direction of the sun. Next, we're going to perform what we call tarpanas. Tarpanas are also where we offer water through the right hand, or sometimes with both hands. But in this case, we can do it with the right hand. It'll be much easier. So with each of the following mantras, pour out 1 spoon of full water from the tips of the right hand again into the plate at the sides. If you're inside, outside, simply onto the ground. So Adityam tarpayami, Somam tarpayami, Angarakam tarpayami, Buddham tarpayami, Brihaspatim tarpayami, Shukram tarpayami, Sanaischaram tarpayami, Rahum tarpayami, Ketum tarpayami. These are the names of all the Navagrahas, the 9 different planets. Adityaya to Somaya, Mangalaya Buddhaya cha, Guru Shukra Shinebhyascha, Rahave Ketave Namaha. In one sloka, in one verse of understood 32 syllables, we can have the names of all of them. But we separate each of the names, putting them in the accusative singular case, and then we add the word tarpayami, which means I offer this oblation to you. I offer this water oblation to you, right? So then we're going to also offer to the 12 names of the Upavyuhas of Vishnu, right, from Keshava to Damodar. So again, 1 spoonful in the right hand, and then pour it through the fingertips onto the plate or onto the ground if you're outside. Keshavam tarpayami, Narayanam tarpayami. We can also put Om before each one of these. We can say Om Adityam tarpayami, Om Somam tarpayami, Om Angarakam tarpayami. And we can say Om Keshavam tarpayami, Om Narayanam tarpayami, Om Madhavam tarpayami. Or we can just say Keshavam tarpayami, Narayanam tarpayami, Madhavam tarpayami, Govindam tarpayami, Vishnum tarpayami, Madhusudaram tarpayami, Trivikram tarpayami, Vamanam tarpayami, Sridharam tarpayami, Rishikesham tarpayami, Padmanabham tarpayami, Damodaram tarpayami. Now, after this, we should repeat Achamana. We should do Achamana. So this time, instead of doing it twice, which is at the beginning of a ritual, we always do Achamana twice, or normally we try to do Achamana twice. In the middle of a ritual, we can do it simply once, breaking one section of the ritual into another. So here we are finishing what's called the Jala Bharga, or the section. Bharga means section about with the use of water. We sprinkle the water, we sip the water, we offer the water as argya to the sun, right? Now we offer tarpanams to the planets and to the upavyuhas. So we've finished using the water for all these different reasons. So now we're going to do Achamana again. Om Achyutaya Namaha, Om Anantaya Namaha, Om Govindaya Namaha, Keshava, Narayana, Madhava, Govinda, Vishnu, Madhusudana, Trivikram, Vamana, Sridhara, Rishikesha, Padmanabha, Damodara. Right, so we do that once. And now we're going to do the Gayatri Japam. Gayatri Japam. So again, we do the pranayamaha. Then after we do pranayamaha, what was the pranayamaha? Again, he was using Vedic pranayamaha. Om Bhuhu, Om Bhuvaha, Ogam Suvaha, Om Maha, Om Janaha, Om Tapaha, Ogam Satyam, Om Tatsavare Enyam, Bargo Deva Siddhimihi, Dio Yona Pachoria Ate, Om Apo, Jyotir Samritam, Brahma Bodh Suvarom, in the mind, like that. Again, with pranayamaha, some people, after they do that, when they touch the right ear, they say Om, Om, Om. Okay, so that's fine. Now, after that, we again hold the hands together in the Brahmanjali over the right knee, like that, to make the Sankalpa. The Sankalpa now is going to be for Gayatri Mantra Japa. We're going to perform the recitation of Gayatri again and again. Hari Om Tatsada, Mamopada Samasta Duritakshya Dwara, Sri Parameshwara Prityatam, or Vaishnavas can say Bhagavadagyaya, Bhagavad Kainkari Rupam, Prataha or Madhyanika or Sayam Gayatri Mahamantra Japam Karisye, depending on the time of day. Right, in order to absolve myself of all my transgressions and to please the Supreme Being, Vaishnava say, with the sanction of the Supreme Being and service to him alone, I now do my morning, noon, or evening recitation of Gayatri Mantra. So now here we have Anganyasaha. Anganyasaha, recite the following and touch different parts of the body. So this is actually called a Mantranyasa. Mantranyasa. Or this is, in this case, he's doing an Anganyasa. There are 6 parts to the body. The heart, the head, the sika, or the crown, right? The shoulders, right? The 2 eyes. In this case, the 2 eyes. Sometimes it can be 3 eyes, right? Depending upon the deity and the mantra being chanted. And also as a weapon around the head, like that. So for Vishnu Gayatri, this is the specific Anganyasa for Vishnu Gayatri. So he says, Om Narayanaya Hridaya Namaha, touch the heart. Om, he says, touch the heart with the fist. Or Vidmahe Shirase Swaha, touch the head with the thumb and ring finger of the right hand. Thumb and ring finger of the right hand. Right? Vasudevaya Shikaya Vashate, touch the crown with the right thumb. Right, Dimahi Kavachayohum, touch with the left fist and right fist to the shoulders, crossed over in the middle. Right, Tanno Vishnu Netrabhyam Voshate, touch the middle of the forehead with the inverted thumb, is what he says. But actually, normally what we do is we use the index finger and the ring finger to touch the 2 eyes. If there are 3 eyes involved, we use the middle finger, or we can use these 2 fingers, the middle finger and the index finger, to touch the 2 eyes, like that. So, Prachodayat Astraya Pate, clap the hands. Clap the hands 3 times, right, like that. Sometimes what's added onto here is a Digbandaha to create a force field around oneself so that one isn't disturbed when he performs the meditation. So you can take water in your hand as you did before, put it around the body and go Om Bhurabhava Subaha Digbandaha, right, that's possible. Next, after having done the nyasa and done the dhyana, we are going to chant the meditation on the particular deity of the Vishnu Gayatri, which is Lord Vishnu himself. That is like this. Shantakaram Bhujagashayanam Padmanabham Suresham Vishvadaram Gagana Sarvisham Meghavarnam Subhangam Lakshmi Kantam Kamalanayanam Yogipir Dhyanagamyam Vande Vishnum Bhavabahayaram Sarvalokaikanaatam. I salute the Supreme Lord Vishnu, the remover of fear of repeated births, the sole Lord of the universe, the lover of Lakshmi, the lotus-eyed one, who is realized by yogis in meditation, the supporter of the universe, the color of a dark rain cloud with auspicious limbs, the granter of peace, reposing upon a couch of eternity, the Ananta Shesha, a mystical serpent, lotus-naveled and God of gods, the God of gods. Right, so then after that, we will recite the Vishnu Gayatri 108 times, 28 times, or at least 10 times, like that. What is the Narayana Gayatri or the Vishnu Gayatri? Om Narayanaya Vidmahe Vasudevaya Dhimahi Tanno Vishnu Prachodayat. Right. So may we know the cause of all beings. We meditate upon the infinite of all jivas, the indweller of all jivas. May that supreme omniscient one enlighten our intellects. So now he's got several other mantras that he's going to go through. I think we can probably finish Sandhya Vandana today. It'll take a little while, but we can finish it. So he says, if you're going to meditate on Shiva, you can chant the Shiva Gayatri. And so the same thing he does. First of all, the nyasa with the Shiva Gayatri is going to be Om Tat Purushaya Hridayaya Namaha, touching the heart. Vidmahe Shirase Swaha, touching the head. Mahadevaya Shikaya Vasate. Dimahe Kavachayohum. Tanno Rudra Netrabhyam Voshate. Prachodayat Astraya Pate. And again, we could put water around us in a mantra shield. Om Bhurabhava Subaha Iti Digbandaha. The dhyana mantra for Shiva is going to be like this. Shantam Padmasanastam Shashidara Mukutam Panchavaktram Trinetram Shulam Vajram Chakadgam Parasum Abhayadam Savyabhage Vahantam Nagam Pasham Chagantam Pralayahuta Vaham Chankusham Vamabhage Nanalankaras Yuktam Spatika Manibham Maninibam Parvatisham Namami. I meditate upon the Lord of Parvati, peaceful, seated in a lotus posture, with the moon as the crest jewel upon his head, 5-faced, 3-eyed, holding the trident, thunderbolt, sword, axe, and the gesture of fearlessness on the right side, and the snake, noose, and bell, the fire of universal destruction, and the elephant goad on the left side, decorated variously, being the color of crystal. Then we can recite the Shiva Gayatri 108, 28, or at least 10 times. When we're doing the recitation of these mantras, for 108, we can use a mala with 108 beads on it to count the bead, or we can count on the fingers, right? And for 28 and 10, we can count on the fingers, different segments of the fingers, or just folding the fingers for 10. Fold down 5 fingers and fold back up 5 fingers for 10. So, again, Tat Purushaya, the mantra is Om Tat Purushaya Vidmahe Mahadevaya Dhimahi Tanno Rudra Prachodayat. May we know the Supreme Person. Let us contemplate the great Lord. May Lord Shiva enliven our intellects. Now, Surya Upastana, which means salutation to the sun, we stand and face the rising sun. Say, Namah Savitre Jagadeka Chakshuse Jagat Prasuti Stita Nasha Bhetave Trahi Mayaya Shri Gunatmadarine Virinchi Narayana Shankaratmane. Salutation to the sun god, the eye of the universe, the cause of creation, sustention, and destruction of the cosmos. The form of the 3 qualities of nature, the one who manifests as the Trinity, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. And then the next we say, Deyasada Savitra Mandala Madhyavarti Narayana Sarasija Sanasani Vistaha Ke Yoravan Makara Kundala Van Kiriti Hari Hiranmaya Vapahu Drita Sanka Chakraha. Narayana is worthy of being meditated upon in the center of the sun globe, seated in the lotus posture, adorned with bracelets, earrings, crown, and necklace, of golden-hued body and holding conch and discus. Then we say, Shanka Chakra Gadapani, Dwarakanila Achuta, Govinda Pundari Kaksha, Rakshamam Sharanagatam, O wielder of the conch, discus, and mace, the eternal resident of Dwarka, the indestructible one, the protector of the cosmos, the lotus-eyed one, save me, who have taken refuge in you. And this is actually the prayer of Draupadi when they were trying to strip her naked in the assembly of the Kauravas, after she had been lost in the gambling game by Yudhisthira and the other Pandavas. So now this is called Draupadi Sharanagati, or the surrender of Draupadi. Now we have a very famous mantra that we chant, Namo Brahmanya Devaya, Go Brahmana Hitaya Cha, Jagat Hitaya Krishnaya, Govindaya Namo Namaha. Salutations to God of the spiritual, to the God of the spiritual ones, to the well-wisher of the world and the sages, to Krishna, to Govinda, I offer my repeated obeisances. And the next prayer is also very famous, prayer by Adi Shankaracharya, Akashat Patitam Voyam Yata Gachati Sagaram Sarvadeva Namaskaraha Keshavam Patigachati, or some people say Shri Keshavam Patigachati. As rain falls from the sky, or falling from the sky, flows to the sea as rivers, so do salutations to all the devas, all the devatas, go to Krishna alone, to Lord Keshava. Then we're going to turn around clockwise and salute the different directions, turning in a circle to the right, reciting the following. Now, in the evening, by the way, when we do the Surya Agya, we have to be facing the west because that's where the sun is. So we usually start by doing the Achamana in the north in the evening, and then turn to the west and offer the Argya and the Japa in the west where the sun is. So we start in the west in the sun. So these directions will change slightly for the west, for the evening Sandhya Vandana. But for the morning and the noon Sandhya Vandanas, this is the correct order. So we say Prache Dishe Namaha, Dakshinaye Dishe Namaha, Patiche Dishe Namaha, Udiche Dishe Namaha, Urdvaya Namaha for up, Adaraya Namaha for down, Antarikshaya Namaha for outer space, Bhumye Namaha for the earth, Brahmane Namaha for the Supreme Lord, and Vishnave Namaha for the Supreme Lord. right? So this would be like that for morning and noon Sandhyavandanas. Morning and noon Sandhyavandanas. For evening Sandhyavandana, we will have to do it a different way. We will have to start with the west. So we'll go west, north, east, and south, like that. So we would go Uri Chedishe Namaha, Pati Chedishe Namaha. Sorry, west first. Pati Chedishe Namaha, Uri Chedishe Namaha, Pra Chedishe Namaha, Dakshinaye Dishe Namaha, Udvaya Namaha, Adaraya Namaha, Antarikshaya Namaha, Bhumya Namaha, Brahmane Namaha, Vishnave Namaha. That will be done in the evening Sandhyavandana or Sayan Sandhyavandana. Right. So that is called the Dikni Namaskaram, or the salutation to the different deities of the different directions. And now, facing south, we have to come again clockwise around to the south. If we're not at the south at the end of this, we have to come around again till we get to the south. And then we have to do the salutation to Yama, the Lord of Death. Facing south and contemplating death, recite the following. Yamaya Dhamarajaya Mrityave Chantakaya Cha Vaivaspataya Kalaya Sarvabhuta Kshayaya Cha Rambaraya Jagnaya Nilaya Paramestine Vikrodharaya Chitraya Chitraguptaya Ve Namaha. Chitragupta, Chitra and Chitragupta have to also be saluted. They are the witnesses to all our good and bad deeds. And so they are the witnesses that stand as in the court of Yamaraj to after death, when we are judged. Then they will say that they personally witnessed us performing good and bad deeds for Yamaraj to pass the judgment on us. This means salutations to the Lord of Death, to the one who is the ultimate controller, the king of Dharma, the destroyer and the end of all things, the son of the sun god, the personification of time, the all-powerful one, the blue-hued one, the subject of all worship, the insatiable one, mysterious one, who maintains the Akashic records of everything that happens. To the one who maintains the Akashic records, all hail. And now we have another, we're going to face the north, and we're going to, again, so we turn around clockwise till we get to the north from the south, right? And say a prayer to Shiva. Face north and recite the following prayer. Gauri Natham Girishancha Neelakantam Trilochanam Maheshwaram Cha Vishvesham Lokapalam Namamyaham. So Shiva as a Lokapala, as the protector of the whole world. I salute the deity Shiva, consort of Parvati, the blue-throated one with three eyes. The great Lord of the universe, I contemplate upon Shiva, the guardian of the world. Lokapala means guardian of the world. Now we have Samarpanam. Samarpanam is when we're finally finished, we're going to offer everything that we have just done in this ritual of Sandhyavandanam, whether it be morning, noon, or evening. We're going to offer all of the results to Lord Narayana. He also has, and if you want to offer it to Lord Shiva, you can offer it to Lord Shiva. Usually the Vaishnavas will be offering it, the results to Lord Narayana. And this is how they do it. So with folded palms, keep saying, Kayena vachamana sindriyerva, Udyatmanava Prakute Swabhavat, Kuromi Yad Sakalam Parasmai, Narayana iti samarpayami. Now he says, if you want to offer this to Shiva, you can say, Kayena vachamana sindriyerva, Udyatmanava Prakute Swabhavat, Kuromi Yad Sakalam Parasmai, Samba Shiva Yeti samarpayami. Right. So whatever actions I've done with my six senses, my mind, myself, and by my nature, all that I offer up as an offering to the Supreme Lord Narayana. And if we say it the other way, unto Lord Shiva. Right. So here, again, he's given in brackets, he's in each one of these prayers, he's given an alternative for people who are worshippers of Shiva. If people are worshippers of other deities, then they can add their own, or they can write to me and they can find out some way of changing this to offering it to Ganesh or to Durga or to Surya or to whatever deity there is their Ishtadevata, their main deity. So here we are offering what we call Shamashwapanam mantras for forgiveness for any mistake that we've made. Hinam means mistake. So mantra hinam, kriya hinam, bhakti hinam, janardana, or sambhashiva. Yat kritam tu maya deva paripurnam chalastu me. Devoid of this ritual, devoid as this ritual is of in mantra, in proper method or devotion, oh Janardana, or alternatively Lord Shiva, whatever has been done by me, please accept it as complete. Prayaschityanya tyeshani tapak karmat makani chai, tapak karmat makani vai, yani tesham asheshanam, Shri Krishna anusmaranam param. Or you can just say Krishna anusmaranam param, and he says here, Shiva Anusmaranam Param. whatever mistakes have been committed in austerity or action, all of them are immediately made complete by the remembrance of Krishna. Or he didn't put it in here, but he should have put it in the brackets. Or if you say Shiva, by remembrance of Shiva. So you either say Krishna, Krishna, Krishna 3 times or 10 times, right? Or you say Shiva, Shiva, Shiva 3 times or 10 times, like that. Perform Achamana again, and Anga Vandana means touching the different parts of the body. So Achyutana Maha, Anantana Maha, Govindana Maha, Kesava, Narayana, Madhava, Govinda, Vishnu, Madhusudana, Trivikram, Vamana, Shrivdara, Rishikesha, Padmanabha, Damodara. Pour a little water out of your hand onto the plate or onto the ground if you're outside, and think that all of this is going to either Krishna or Shiva or whoever you've said your prayers to, and then say Om Tat Sat Shri Krishnapanastu or Om Tat Sat Krishnapanastu, or alternatively Om Tat Sat Shivarpanamastu. I offer the merit of this rite to the Supreme Being. Think of the merit going to the Supreme Being by offering the water through your hands onto the ground or into the plate at the end. And that is the end of the Sandhya Vandana ritual. So I think we'll just leave it there today and pick it up next time. So do we have any questions about this section?
Yes, Swami. Namaskaram. I have a question about the Nandi Mukha Shraddha. Does that have to be performed for every samskara?
The Nandi Mukha Shraddha is, we haven't come to it yet, but normally different Shraddhas, there's a thing called Hiranya Shraddha. Hiranya Shraddha means instead of, you just say the Sankalpa for the Shraddha and you give a donation to a Brahmin, you give some Dakshina to a Brahmin, and it's considered complete. So either you do the full Shraddha or you just give a donation to the Brahmin called a Hiranya Shraddha, like that. But we haven't come to that yet. So let's get to that section first, right? About this particular section, we've just done getting up from bed, taking the bath, and doing the Sandhya Vandana. That's all we've done. So the next section we'll come to is, let's see what the next section is. The next section that we'll come to in this series will be Vaishvadeva Bali, which comes after performing the worship. And so we take the foodstuffs that are offered to the Lord, to the Supreme Lord, and we'll take those and we'll offer them to different living beings. Then we'll take the food, we'll take food ourselves, bhojanam, lunch, and then we'll take it from there. When we finish the Anakam, we'll come to the samskaras, and we'll do first of all the common rites, and after we do the common rites, we'll get to the Nandi Mukha Shraddha.
Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo Narayanaya.